Welcome to the Fancy Scientist podcast. Today I have a big episode for you. It is one that has been on my mind for some time. And to be honest, I'm a little bit nervous about recording this episode, but I know I have to do it because it is so important. It is about acting a certain way when it comes to your wildlife career. And even though we're going to be talking about careers today, this applies to pretty much anything professionally and personally. We're going to take a deep dive into ourselves. I'm going to ask you to do this, to take a deep dive into yourself and be honest and take responsibility for how you have been showing up. I know all this because I have been in this exact place, and I see this happen over and over again with people, especially who are struggling with getting wildlife jobs, with people who are applying for dozens, sometimes hundreds of jobs, and they still can't get a job. But again, if you're not in wildlife careers, this episode is still going to apply to you. So make sure that you listen in. But we're going to talk specifically about people who can't get jobs. And we're going to ask ourselves to reflect on our behavior and what we're doing. And I used to be one of those people. I was on the job market from 2012 when I graduated with my PhD until 2020. I was looking for permanent jobs. Now, I did have 2 postdocs, so I was working, but I was applying for permanent jobs, getting interviews, like really thinking like, oh my gosh, this is it. This is the job for me. I'm going to get this job. It's perfect. And then not getting it. And it wasn't because I wasn't experienced enough. It wasn't because I wasn't qualified. It's just that there was somebody else out there who had something a little bit more than me. In some cases, it was a lot more, like 10 years of experience. I lost to somebody who had 10 years of experience. They applied to a job that was essentially below their level. And of course, they got it because they had 10 years of publications, 10 years of grants compared to me. I lost out on another job because I didn't speak Spanish fluently and somebody else did. So again, it wasn't like in my career, I had these big missteps and I was like missing out on key experiences. Although I was for the jobs that I wanted, I didn't look at the jobs ahead of time, which is a key important factor that I give to my students now. But I was really qualified, a really competitive candidate, but I was just missing out. And it's the point I'm trying to say is it's competitive out there. And I played into this narrative of poor me and the system sucks. The system is broken and I can't get a job because of XYZ. So today, what we're going to do is take a step back and look at ourselves and where can we be responsible for our actions, what we say to ourselves, for our behaviors, and how this attitude of poor me is not serving you. It's not helping you. It's not empowering you. I know this again because I lived this, and for the past 7, 8 years, I have been really stepping outside of this. So I'm not going to explain anymore. This is a long intro enough already, but this is a juicy episode and I am excited to give this information to you guys and I'm excited to hear back from you. So let's just get into it. The reason why I wanted to do this podcast episode is because I talk to a lot of people out there who are struggling in this wildlife field. And I was one of them. Like I said in the intro, I was applying for jobs for 8 years. And I got a lot of rejections. I applied for jobs where I thought I was absolutely perfect for the job and I didn't get an interview. So I know how frustrating it is. And I keep on seeing all these posts out there when I talk to members who joined my Getting a Job in Wildlife Biology Facebook group. I send them a message and I ask them what they're struggling with. And so many people talk about this struggle with getting a job, that they can't even get an interview. And with the posts out there in Facebook groups and on Twitter, I've seen people say that they can't get interviews or they're not getting interviews, even though they're applying for dozens, sometimes hundreds of jobs. And the advice will also be from other people to apply for hundreds of jobs, that that's just what it takes. Now, I disagree with that. And I have learned from my own results that when you go after the jobs that you can really get, your results, your chances increase a lot, which is all in my Right Winning Wildlife Job Applications free training. So make sure that you take that. So I hear all these people out there frustrated, and I get it. I was one of those people. I complained to my family, to my husband at the time, now he's my ex, about this situation. And I very much took the mentality that it wasn't my fault, that the system is broken, that it's just too competitive out there, that it's just unfair. And I would kind of walk around almost with a disclaimer. Now, I really didn't walk around with a disclaimer. I didn't have anything on my t-shirt, or I didn't have a post-it note on my forehead. But when I would talk to people, I felt majorly guilty. I felt a lot of shame for not being able to get a permanent job. And I kind of just like explain this to people. Like when people, like when you're in your postdoc, people are always asking like, how's the job search going? What's next for you? And it was really disempowering and disheartening to constantly be like, I don't know, like I'm applying for jobs, but I'm not getting anything. I mean, that's not what I said. I was a little bit more enthusiastic than that, especially with talking to people professionally, but that's how I felt inside. I honestly felt ashamed. I felt like I messed up. And I know logically that I didn't mess up, that the field is really competitive. That is the truth. There is fact that when you apply for jobs, chances are you will be in an application pool with dozens and probably hundreds of other applications. I've seen this happen to my students. My students have been selected out of hundreds of applications. And so therefore it is competitive. Like nobody's saying that this is not real. But what I am saying and what I've learned from my own experience is that when you take on this attitude of poor me, this is hard, things aren't happening for me, then things don't happen for you, that it is very disempowering, and you kind of spiral into this loop of feeling bad for yourself and that things aren't working out for you. And when you culminate this, then it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. When you're thinking that I don't have enough experience or somebody else is always going to have more than me. Like I said, I applied to this job I was perfect for. I really wanted it, but somebody else got it and they spoke Spanish and I didn't. And I totally agree with their decision. That person should have got the job. They had just as much experience as I did, and they were fluent in Spanish. It was an outreach position, so totally makes sense. You want an outreach person to be able to talk to all members of the community that people are trying to reach. So I totally agree with their decision. But if I felt constantly like I wasn't good enough or that I was always missing something, then do you think my job applications are going to be better? Do you think I'm going to be really showing my best self? Do you think that's going to be really coming across in my writing or in my interviews? Or also, is it going to be coming across just like in the chances that I take? Am I going to apply for jobs if right off the bat I'm kind of discounting myself? So this is really a huge reason why I want to get this message out there, because this way of feeling is not going to help you. It's not going to be empowering in the long run. It might make you feel good temporarily. That's what happened to me. It made me feel good temporarily because it's like, oh, it's not my fault. I can blame graduate school for not teaching me about the jobs out there, which is why I do what I do. Because in graduate school, you don't learn project management. That's something you learn from job experience or through other sources, but people care about experience. And nobody told me that it was this competitive. So when I was doing my dissertation research, I would have loved if somebody had told me, unless you want to work in Africa for the rest of your life, you should choose a species that is in the United States that you could work on. Because I studied elephants, and for most jobs, you have to move to Africa to study elephants. That's not all jobs, but most jobs. So I acted helpless a lot. And like I said, this didn't serve me. And the other thing that happens when you act helpless is it gives you an excuse to kind of give up. And I think that's what's going on with a lot of people. And I don't want this to happen to you. And again, we're talking about wildlife careers here, but this is for anything. So yes, here's the data. It is competitive, but I want you to ask yourself, what can you do? And today we're going to talk about a couple of things, but really that's going to lead into next week's podcast episode about having a more empowering attitude and what it takes to be a successful wildlife professional and to get a permanent job that you love so you can do what you know you were meant to do. We go into this field because it is our purpose, it is our meaning, and our deep mission. I just want to go over some scenarios that I've experienced talking to people who ask me for help or I offer them help. And I want you to ask yourself, are you committed more to the story of you can't do it, that things aren't working out for you? Or are you committed to this story of making things happen no matter what? I know it's hard. I know it's unfair. I know you have the expectations of going into this field and getting a degree you worked so hard for. I've talked to so many people who have worked so hard for, and they're working at jobs that have nothing to do with wildlife. They're working at fast food restaurants as baristas. They are working in industry jobs. So which one are you more committed to? The story that things are not working out for you and that it's hard and that you are helpless, or that you're willing to do what it takes, even if it's sucky temporarily, even if it's crappy, even if nobody told you about this. If you really want this field, if you really want to be in this, that's the kind of attitude that it takes, quite honestly. And I get it. This field is unfair. It's totally unfair that we have to volunteer. But I also want to say we're not the only field that volunteers. I have been part of mentoring programs for entrepreneurs, and I have been in association with companies. They're small businesses, but they're profitable. They make money, and they take unpaid internships. I mean, they have unpaid internships. I have worked with before mileage, all my internships were paid. Although in Kenya, I didn't get paid that much because I got paid a Kenyan salary. We lived in Kenya though. And I also had to pay for my airfare. So it kind of was like volunteering. But anyway, when I was in theater, I did unpaid internships. And the teachers that I worked with, they actually have to pay for their professional development. This is not only exclusive to our field, but I get it. It's unfair. People should totally be paid for their internships. And I'm not opening up that discussion. I'm not interested at this moment for this podcast talking about that topic. But what I'm trying to say is this is a situation that we have. And if you want to get a job, this is what it takes right now. And we can work to improve the system, but you can't improve the system for yourself until you get in the system. Like that's your ultimate first goal. And then we can work on improving the system, or the people out there who are in the position to improve the system can work on that. Right now, if you're trying to get a job like that should be your main priority and focus. So are you more committed to, which story are you committed to? They're both stories. Which one are you committed to? And let me just give you some examples of how I've seen this story act out. And people have given me like crying emojis, and they have just really dumped their life stories onto me, and my heart goes out to them, and I'm here to help them. This is what I do because I know how excruciating it is. I really, really do. I have had all the tears. I have had all the rejections. I know what it feels like. So when people reach out to me, I'm here to help, and I'm here to guide them to the right sources. But I can only lead you so far. You know, there's a phrase, you can lead the horse to water, but you can't make it drink. So why aren't you drinking the water? When I give people sources, did you write the course down? Did you make a note to take the course? It's called Right Winning Wildlife Job Applications. This is a 100% free course. Some of the people who, I can't say they're my students because they've never officially enrolled in a program of mine, but they have taken this course and they have gotten a job just from the free advice learned from this course. So for those people who sent me crying emojis, who were upset, they told me I gave them the course, and then they're like, thank you. And then I follow up with them weeks later, sometimes months later. and they still haven't taken the course. And I can also see who takes the course. I get email alerts when people sign up for the course. So if you're feeling so upset, it's time to take some responsibility. This is some tough love. Where are you not putting in the work? I'm somebody who is giving away this free advice because I care about you. I genuinely want you to do better because I want this world to be full of kick-ass conservationists, wildlife workers who are doing amazing work, who are badasses, who are empowered. But you have got to drink the water. I feel like I need a better phrase. I feel like it sounds like drink the Kool-Aid. You got to be the horse that drinks the water. So again, I want you to step back. Where in your life have you been making excuses for why things can't happen? This might be a tough time for you. I get it. You might be busy. But resources out there, I'm not just talking about my resources, I'm talking about whatever resources are out there for whatever you're struggling with. There's YouTube with tons and tons of videos. There's podcasts with tons and tons of videos. If you want to do something, you can pretty much teach yourself to do so many different things off of podcasts and YouTubes, besides maybe like brain surgery. There's so many things that you can teach yourself how to do. So if you don't have experience in R, like look online for like free R experience or invest in it. Can you take an additional job? Or if you're not working, can you take a job? I know it's not glamorous. I know it is not fun, but there are many ways to get work here in the United States. And I have an e-book called 22 Ways to Make Money Now. And again, these are not glamorous. I'll link it in the show notes. It's things like Uber. It's things like doing Rover, which is pet sitting. If you're from another country, there are VA things that you can sign up for. So that's a virtual assistant. You can assign to do virtual assistant work. So there should be opportunities for everybody in this book. And I talk to my Uber and Lyft drivers all the time. So many of those people they've chosen these jobs. A lot of them have left their past jobs because they love the flexibility of Uber and Lyft. They love the tips. And also just think about like how often are your drivers from other places? Like they're from other countries and they're here and they're figuring it out. They're doing the work. They are putting in the work. So again, I want you to really think about yourself. Like where are you letting excuses or other priorities get in the way? And I'm talking about money a lot because that seems to be one of the biggest barriers in our field. A lot of people think that they can't get experience because they can't travel to Africa to pay for one of those experiences. You don't have to do that. In fact, I have a podcast with Matt Snyder where we talk about how going to Africa might not be the best decision for you, especially if you're not planning to do research in Africa long term. But then other people might say, well, I can't afford to volunteer my time because I have to have a full-time job. That's okay. There's ways to get experience on your own. I have a podcast called 7 Ways to Become a Better Biologist. I talk about doing community or citizen science on there. There are ways out there to create experiences on your own. Or you can get an unconventional job like Uber and Lyft and work during the nights and maybe have your volunteership during the day. You can also do volunteering temporarily on the weekend. It doesn't have to be this full-blown all or nothing. You can make it work. So where are you playing into the excuses that you can't make money, that you can't make things happen for you? If there's a course out there where you could learn R really well, but you say that you can't afford it, I talked to several people where they really want to enroll in my courses. And some of my master classes are only $47 now. And there's payment plans, 3 payments of $17 a month. And they tell me right away they can't afford it. Now, there's nothing in your life that you can't cut out for 3 months for $17. Or you can't, again, like pick up an Uber, pick up a pet sitting shift, pick up this stuff to make this dream happen for you. So again, where are you committed to the story that things aren't possible for you? Because they are. When you invest in yourself, when you really step up and want things to happen for you, they can change. And they do change. I've seen this happen in my students. And I do understand there are situations out there where people, truly don't have money, or the currency is different because we're in different countries. But there's still excuses that people have, or still blocks that they have, that they're not committed to themselves. Here's an example. I run the Successful Wildlife Professional program. This is a program, it is now 4 months long, where I teach you everything about how to get a permanent job in wildlife biology, and I lead mentoring sessions. I have scholarships. If you want to get on the waitlist for the Successful Wildlife Professional, make sure you join the free training I have next month called Becoming a Wildlife Professional. We will go into everything about becoming a wildlife professional, and then there'll be a bonus webinar where we'll go into the details of the SWP program. So I've awarded scholarships to people all over the world, and some of them do amazing, like Chitra. Chitra is an amazing example. She's from Nepal, and she was a forestry student. She graduated and she attended an online webinar about, I believe it was online, but it was a webinar about turtles. She loved turtles, but she didn't know how to become a turtle biologist. But that didn't let her stop her. She reached out to the people and was like, let me help. Like, I want to help. I want to become a turtle biologist. And she got the experience. She showed her dedication. She showed her willingness to learn. She showed her passion. And they gave her research projects. She wrote her own grants. She co-wrote grants with people on the projects. And then she connected with me, but she didn't just send me a connection. She sent me a message explaining who she was. And when she connected, she showed, again, her passion for turtles. She told me she wanted to get into a master's program in the United States and asked me if this is something that I could help her with. And I told her about the Successful Wildlife Professional. I told her about the program and that I have scholarships. She applied for scholarships. She wrote a beautiful application expressing her interest, expressing her passion again, but also showing to me that she's committed, that she had the research experience, or even if she didn't have the research experience, if that's not you, that you're willing to put in the work to get it. And when we did SWP together, she showed up to most of the mentoring sessions. She gave me her resume. She gave me her cover letters. We worked on them together to improve them. And now she's here in Illinois, the state that I'm in. And she is doing her master's program. I mean, that to me blows my mind, that she is a student from Nepal who did not know how to become a turtle biologist. And now she's getting her master's in turtle ecology. So again, there's no excuses. She didn't come from a wealthy family. She didn't have professors as parents. She didn't know any of this stuff, but she found a way to know it. Now, there's also been people who've been part of the Successful Wildlife Professional program who have asked for a scholarship, and their applications were okay. I accepted them, and a month or two went by, and I never saw them on a Zoom call. And I looked inside their program and they never even opened the program. And now I get it. We all are at different tech levels. So maybe they didn't know how to do it. But they knew how to email me and they knew how to apply for the scholarship. So why weren't they messaging me saying, hey, Stephanie, I really want to be on a call, or I really want to be a part of this, or I really want to start my training. How do I open up the program? I reached out to them and basically was like, what's going on? And they said they didn't know how to open the program. But again, where are you playing into this role of like, I can't get a wildlife job. This is so hard for me. Here you have somebody who's giving you a program that my program is literally worth thousands of dollars. That's not what you'll pay for it, but it's worth thousands of dollars. It is the accumulation of my knowledge of 20 years of being in this wildlife field, working in the government, working alongside nonprofits, working in academia, museums, zoos, working with all different types of people at all different levels, going to graduate school, getting a PhD, all of that stuff is in there. How to do it well, how to, I don't want to say beat the system, but know the system so that you can come out on top. and they didn't even open the program. So look at yourself. How are you being like this in your life? Do you want to become more physically fit and you're telling yourself you're tired? What are you doing that is contributing to being tired? Can you clean up your diet? Can you get more sleep? Are you drinking too much? Are you watching too much TV and staying up too late? I don't know. I'm just trying to relate this to other things besides wildlife careers. But again, like, where are you playing the I can't card? Where are you seeing that things are not possible for you? And on the flip side, there are people out there who are not letting these stories stop them. My friend and colleague, Rebecca Mowry, we were in the same lab together in graduate school. She got her master's degree and she couldn't get a job right away. She applied for jobs, and this woman, she had tons of tech jobs, but she could easily say, okay, I got a master's now, I'm not going to go back to tech work. But she didn't. She took tech jobs, and she even took jobs at Starbucks because she wasn't going to let her ego get in the way. She was determined to get a wildlife job and succeed in this career. And that's what she's done. I'll have a link in the podcast show notes to the interview that I did with Rebecca so you can learn more about her and big mammal biology. So going back to myself, yes, again, there's things that could have been pointed out to me in graduate school that would most certainly have helped me. But I could have stopped playing that story of it's difficult for me to get a job and actually sit down and do the job tracker. Well, I didn't have the job tracker at that point, which is why I developed it. But I could have looked at, okay, here are the jobs that I really want. What are the skills that I'm missing? So download the free job tracker right now if you don't have it. No matter where you are in your career, if you're looking for a job, this will help you. Or if you're going to get a job in the future, this is going to help you because you're going to use the jobs to tell you the jobs that you want and where you're deficient. People always ask me things like, should I get a certificate in GIS? Should I get certified as a wildlife biologist by the Wildlife Society? All these different things. You have to look at the jobs that you want. All the jobs are different. So I could have gone through and been like, okay, I need more fundraising experience to get a job in nonprofit work. But I didn't do that. So I wasn't being responsible in my own wildlife career. I was playing into the helplessness that this field is just difficult. So how we can switch to a more empowering framework is by recognizing the situation. Yes, understanding that it's unfair, that there are external factors that we can control, but we have power. So I want you to ask yourself, what can I do? That's one of my favorite phrases. And there's always something that you can do. And one of the best ways to navigate these situations is whatever situation you're going through or whatever circumstance feels difficult, or if you have something about yourself that makes things extra hard or feel like it's not possible for you, your homework assignment is to go out there and find people who are making it possible for them that have similar situations as you. So for example, and I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions and give you a bunch of scenarios. And I want you to ask yourself, like, am I doing this? Am I using this? Or am I going to be one of the people who overcome this? So I'm female, and historically it's a little bit better nowadays, although at the top positions it's still male dominated. But historically our field has been dominated by males and exclusive to not only females but other genders. So are you not a male? You're different gender. And are you saying to yourself that it's harder for you? And again, it might be harder, but it doesn't mean you can't do it. So look for evidence out there. Look for strong people who have what you have, who have made it happen. And if they have made it happen, that means that you can make it happen too. Are you not wealthy? This is a really common one. People think you have to be wealthy to make it in the wildlife field. This is a huge misconception. And in fact, I did a whole podcast about money and about this misconception. I'll put a link to it in the show notes. You do not have to be wealthy. I didn't know anyone wealthy in this field except for one person, and they were actually more doing photography and like exploration. But yes, they had a wealthy family. They had a big house in the DC area, and he could afford to go on these fancy trips and stuff. But all of my friends They were not wealthy at all. I mean, one of my friends talked about skating the poverty line, and she's now a professor. Several of my friends are professors that were not wealthy. So you can 100% make it in this no matter what your wealth background is. So again, find people and use those people as examples. Are you a person of color? Look for other people who are people of color and use them as examples. There are so many great scientists out there or other professionals in this field, especially on Instagram and TikTok. Those are really great resources for finding scientists of color, and use them as examples and look to them for inspiration. If they can do it, again, you can do it. That is evidence that you can do it. Maybe you have a physical condition or an illness. And this is one that I can relate to. And actually, the other night in my Getting a Job in Wildlife Biology Facebook group, I answered questions and somebody asked about this. Can you talk about navigating this field while having a chronic illness? I actually have an autoimmune disorder. I didn't find out until later on that it was autoimmune. It's Hashimoto's, which means that your body attacks its own thyroid. So your thyroid doesn't produce enough hormone. And your thyroid controls your metabolism, which is like everything. It's basically how fast your body functions. So when your thyroid is slow, then everything is slower and you tend to be low energy. And even though my thyroid is functioning, or the medicine makes my thyroid function, I still have never felt energetic as other people. And when I was on Mount Kenya doing expedition, I was the last person in the group. I was the slowest person in the group, but I was okay with it. And I didn't look to other people for examples, but I want you guys out there to do it. I just didn't know this advice at the time because it is so helpful. I remember one of the scientists that I didn't overlap with at the North Carolina Museum of Natural Sciences, but she was before me, and she worked with people who have disabilities to get them conducting canopy research in trees. And it was really a great fit of participating in field work because you like hoist yourself up in these canvas chairs. So it is something that somebody who uses a wheelchair can do. And it was a big part of her career to get people like that involved. So look out there for scientists who are making it happen for other people, or scientists who have what you have, and use that as your inspiration. Use that as your example. Again, if they can do it, you can do it. It may be harder, that is true, but you can do hard things. I really believe that you can do it 100%. And one story I love from a coach that I worked with is she just talked about that. She was talking about writing a book, and writing her book was her mission. Like, that was her purpose in life. And for us, this is our purpose in life. For most of us, this is really what we want to do. And she was like, I'm just not going to let anything stop me. She's like, if I don't make enough money to be able to have the time to write my book, I'm going to do Uber at night, and I'm going to drive cars and make the money so that I can work on my book. She basically had an unstoppable mindset. So no matter what you're trying to accomplish, whether it is something related to your career, whether you're a working conservationist or wildlife professional and you want to make something happen, have and adopt that unstoppable mindset. It's not something that most of us are taught, but it is something that we can teach ourselves. I am living proof. I have been doing this, like I said, for the past 8 years, and working really hard on myself for the past few years. And then finally, I want you to think about your career or whatever is not working for you as a science. Like, you're the scientist investigating that thing. When we're scientists, like if you think about a really stereotypical scientist, they're in the lab, they're conducting experiments, and things go wrong and their experiments don't work out. That doesn't mean they're a bad scientist. It means that they didn't get the result they're expected. And this is information telling them maybe the next place to go, the next place to look. So think about that with yourself. If you're applying for hundreds and hundreds of jobs and you're not getting interviews, stop doing the same thing. And instead, another phrase I love, slow down to speed up. Slow down and prioritize doing the right winning wildlife job applications program. Like I said, it's free. It'll take you a couple of hours. open up some time on your weekend. What can you do that you're already doing that you can add it to? Like when you put your makeup on in the morning, or you cook when you're chopping vegetables, can you listen to it? It doesn't have to be perfect. Don't let perfection be the enemy of progress. But I want you to switch your mindset to a more empowering mindset that you can make this happen. We can think outside of the box. We can make things happen for you. Thank you guys so much for listening. If you like this show, please share it. You can now comment on Spotify podcasts. I'd love to hear back from you. Please rate our show. That helps people find this good free advice out there. And if you want to go deeper, I am here to go deeper with you and to really help you work on your career. In a couple of weeks, we have Becoming a Wildlife Professional webinar. It is 100% free coming up. It'll probably run an hour to an hour and a half. And this is my best advice for getting a job in this field. You don't want to miss it. It will be live, but you can also watch the recording if you can't make it live. But if you come live, you get to hang out with me and ask me questions, and we get to be friends. So thank you guys so much. I really genuinely would love to hear your feedback on this episode. I was pretty vulnerable this episode, and I can't wait to hear from you. Thanks. Have a great day. Be kind to animals, be kind to each other, and be kind to yourself and empower yourself. You got this.